think this video is going to be mostly about Genshin's insane power creep, but yeah, these are 3 ways Genshin's weak characters can be truly fixed. Let's react to it.
Alrighty, it's been a while since we've done a theory crafting video, and frankly I'm just in the mood to do that today, so that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
I'm harboring no illusions that Hoyo will ever give old characters the time of day, but assuming there's even the slightest possibility that underpowered units will be retroactive.
Like me, I didn't really focus on meta, but it was accidental meta which I discovered. Like, I tried to do a great combination with like Hu Tao, Zhongli, Xingxie, and like something like Raiden Shogun, and at the end of the day, it was like one of the most broken combos which exists. Like, this is insane. I just thought, yeah, Hu Tao with some water gives the vaporous effect, and I guess a good shield is also needed with some energy recharge from Raiden Shogun. This game is that easy. You don't really need to think that hard. It's pretty easy to create insane combos here, even with Forsters only.
Actively buffed, that's enough to get entire fan bases out of bed every morning. Historically, unless my memory is wrong, Genshin has only ever buffed one character, and that is the Geodaddy himself, Mr. Zhongli. After his underwhelming release in version 1.1, his banner rerun in version 1.3,
they just buffed him so people would roll for him. Like, I think his kit before he was buffed, it was pretty decent till great even. Now it's completely bazonkas, bro. Shields are insane, except for Wolves, I guess, but yeah, corrosion is not that big of a deal.
he gave him and the Geo element as a whole a very much needed pick-me-up. For him specifically, Zhongli's Jade Shield was 50% stronger against all known sources of damage, effectively increasing his maxed out scaling by 1.5 times. Additionally, nearby enemies suffered a 20% decrease in resistance to all forms of damage. This, alongside the adjustment to Dominance of Earth, was enough to skyrocket him from below average to one of the most powerful supports in the entire game, a statement that holds true well over a year after. That was the only—
Bro, I built like the ultimate Comet build for Zhongli. I didn't care about the shield, I just wanted the big damage from his ult. It's fucking worth it, man. It feels satisfying. You don't need the greatest shield to do anything, except you are doing like floor 12 of Abyss, but for everything else, just go full damage, man. It doesn't matter.
only instance of a direct balance change given to a character in the almost 2 years Genshin has been out for. We've had 2 other systems changes though, primarily to Geo's elemental properties and transformative reactions like Overload, Swirl, and Electrocharge to name a few. Apart from that, Hoyo doesn't see fit to touch what they've already put out. The only reason they made an exception for Zhongli was due in part to the overwhelmingly catastrophic public relations disaster that was expectations versus reality. Not that I blame the community.
Yeah, because he was a support, they expected him to be like this Geo god who like destroys everything with one spell, you know?
After bearing witness to the rich and storied lore of Morax's power and influence, only to find out he's potentially weaker than Noel at the time was a bit embarrassing to say the least.
Oh, he wasn't weaker than Noel, man. Trust me.
That being said, the fact that they were willing to acquiesce to player demands meant they weren't above making balance changes. With that in mind, I wanted to make a video listing ways they can hypothetically give other characters the Zhongli treatment in the hopes that they can more equally contend with the rest of the cast. So let's get to it. Really quickly though, before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Keeps. I know Genshin can sometimes be frustrating, but mauling over a game is
energy recharge defense.
It's never worth it. 2 out of 3 men will experience hair loss of some kind by the time they reach 35, but thanks to clinically proven, researched, and tested treatments, Keeps helps you improve your hair growth so you don't end up balding in real life. All forms of treatment—
I've never had problems with my hair, even my parents never have problems with my hair. Like, I have pretty good natural hair which like grows extremely fast. Like, that's why I have like the opposite problem. I need to get it cut more often. That's a thing.
Are doctor—
like, I can't have like too little of hair because it always grows like it's stupid.
recommended and delivered straight to your door at roughly half the cost of a traditional pharmacy, so you don't have to visit a pharmacy or a doctor's office. Treatment products and refill reminders will be shipped to you based on your subscription plan. Speaking of which, each plan comes with a full year of unlimited messaging, so if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to your prescribing doctor about anything at any time. Most Keeps customers notice results within 6 months of starting treatment, so it will take a bit of time before you see—
This is one of the only YouTubers who actually do like quality Genshin insight or guide in a way theory build up shit, you know? Like, he's one of the few who truly does original great content about Genshin Impact. Most of us, like, which I looked at back in the day, I need to be honest, Tectone and Mtesh were more on the casual side of Genshin Impact. Like, they don't really know what they are truly talking about. They see the new thing. We're gonna talk about the new thing. they get the new and insane amount of views. That's the truth. But this guy, Vars, he takes care. He's like a perfectionist, workaholic dude. Like this is what he said. And hey, it's worth to support, and I guess.
things working, but considering it's to maintain a nice full head of hair, it's more than worth it. So if you're concerned about hair loss in the possible future, head on over to keeps.com/Vars2 for 50% off your first order. Link is also in the description. Thanks again to Keeps for sponsoring the video, but for now, let's get back into
But you link in
it.
the
First, I think I
description,
should clarify that there's no such thing as weak units in Genshin, only inefficient ones. Even with the so-called low-tier units like Amber or Animo Traveler, you're never gonna run into a situation
Bro, I tried to build Animal Traveler, and it actually is. It's too bad, bro. You don't do anything. You don't do damage. You don't do nothing. It's not hard. Like the enemies are still easily clappable, but the thing is that it just takes longer, and in this case, too long for those high tier units. It's insane.
where they're entirely unusable. The way most gacha titles power scale their content is in accordance to the top 25 to 30 percentile of units. That is, the hardest thing in the game is only efficiently and comfortably doable with the top quarter of all units, and tier lists are usually formatted by that logic. I think by now most, if not all of us, are beginning to accept that Genshin was never meant to be one of those games. As much as I think endgame content would still be a worthwhile direction for the game's future, based on how they like to design their events, challenge and optimization of characters is outside of their realm of interest, at least for now. More focus is placed on exploration and discovery than trying to get the best of the best equipment and
I think that's also good focus, because exploration and travel thing, it's something you play through once and then you're done. But this time where you explore that shit and all the new story quests, it's fucking amazing, man. I fucking love it. Like, the new story quests were well done, the dialogue gets better, and like the early dialogue in Genshin was garbage, man. But now it's actually decent, and I quite like it. But yeah, I would also wish that they would include more something on the end game side, where you could use the meta, or try something completely new and just go berserkers, man. You know what I mean? Be something different to enjoy the game on another way, I guess. Yeah.
artifacts for your characters, even if we end up doing that anyway. But be that as it may, many of you might have seen my video on power creep a week or two ago, and I talked about how new characters appear to be evolved versions of existing 4-star ones in some way.
Yelan, for example, it's basically a better child, in my opinion. Was he? Or Xingqiu?
Yelan is a 5-star alternative to Xingqiu, Kokomi is a 5-star version of Barbara, Ito is to Noelle, Eula is to Razor.
Ito is not exactly Noelle herself, man. I think Noelle C6 is fucking broken. I use her in floor 12 like every time. She's insane, especially with her unforged broken sword, man. It's insanity. You do so much damage, and it's not the damage itself which applies only on one enemy. She's OP against multiple enemies, not against one. Against one, I would recommend something like, I don't know, Yula or some shit like that, Hutao, you know, the standard OP stuff. But when you want to delete the masses, you need the Kazuha, Benti, Noelle is fucking great, man. Trust me. Build a DPS.
Be at a different element. Shunhe is to Chongyun, Kazuha is to Sucrose, so on and so forth. There is a clear progression of character power, and that's ultimately caused.
But I think the C6 versions of some of these 4-star characters are like 10 times better than like the C0 version of a 5-star character. It is the truth, man.
Older units to fall behind in relevance. Units like Chi-Chi, Lisa, Chongyun, Razor, Xinyan, Toma, Kaya, Barbara, Aloy, and our very own Traveler have seen very little if any usage in recent.
Except, yeah, they're pretty much all useless, too low, not good enough
in years, so granting quality of life buffs or slightly better efficiency would allow them to be on the same level playing field as everyone else. That is, if we're going by the notion of Genshin having different units, not necessarily stronger ones. The problem is, balance patches are typically not something you run into in gacha games for 3 reasons. First, it goes against the business model of getting you to always chase after the new thing, not stick to the old stuff. As mentioned in the past, power creep happens so frequently.
And if you are pretty annoyed by me talking over all this shit and giving commentary, this is a fucking reaction video. I give my opinion about every single thing in this fucking video. And if you just hate it, go watch the original video and support the creator. You fuck tart. And yeah, for the rest, keep enjoying this shit.
frequently in almost every update in game because in order for new stuff to capture your interest, it has to take that interest away from existing stuff. And to do that, it needs to be more attractive either in the sense of being more engaging or more efficient than what you already have. Naturally, this means as time goes on, new units will start to eclipse older ones in power or coverage. Second, gacha games are all PvE at their core, even if they have a PvP mode, which isn't actually real PvP, rather player versus a CPU operating another.
I think I've seen this one before, but I can't remember the name.
Other player's team, or CPUs operating both players' teams. Therefore, there's not a need
Office Fire Emblem 5? Like Heroes? I played that one.
for balance, as no one is competing against each other in a literal sense. In a title such as League of Legends, since set rotation isn't a thing, champions from over a decade ago are still active to this day, meaning they'll have to be continually updated to match the relative power ceiling of modern champions.
And for example, Skarner is completely garbage, like it's just a fucking Scorpion which is useless, and then there's fucking Senna Tam Kench on the bot lane who destroys you with ease. The meta always shifts, it's amazing, and I think the game right now is pretty balanced in comparison to what it was before, back in the day. Like, I know it's not perfect, there's always some broken things here and there, but the thing is that so many builds right now are excelling and are really viable if you just put your time into it. Especially off-meta shit is much better now. It takes more time to learn that stuff, like the off-meta stuff, of course, to get the same level, which is meta, where you don't need to spend too much time to understand all this shit. But I love it when off-meta is actually getting is actually being worth, and that's the great thing about this game right now. The thing which destroys League of Legends are obviously the not availability of the fucking voice comms. Like, why are you not putting in voice chat? Like, we have it in Valorant, put it in League, it's pretty tactical, we need it, and if someone is toxic or annoying, just mute him.
Champions. Alternatively, those modern champions will have to have their numbers toned down, but of the two options, that's usually the lesser favored. Third, it's too much of a hassle to decide what should and shouldn't be meta, especially in a game where every character is a very loyal and dedicated fanbase. Developers picking favorites would be in poor taste. If you were to buff a unit, you would determinedly have stans begging for some love for their waifu or husbando as well, and if you were to nerf a unit, the amount of outrage it would generate will cause more trouble than the
way they shouldn't nerf a unit in Genshin. That would be... Ooh. Bro, did my recording just die? Bro, my fucking camera died, didn't it? And... fuck yeah, it looks like... I'm sorry, man.
present desire for change. However, that doesn't mean there's no way for Genshin's older units to have a chance to come back into the meta, so rest assured coaching means the copium will come through for us. At least I hope. Direct balance changes may not be a possibility anymore barring extreme exceptions, but there are 3 other directions the game can take to fix weaker units, though any of these approaches poses a lot of risk and has to be done carefully. The first and most conservative direction would be to introduce new material that supplements or encourages a specific set of units, consequently buffing them without having to change the internal kit of the units in question, and you can do this in a multitude of ways, which they have. The buffs to transformative elemental reactions and Geo's elemental resonance are 2 examples of this, where they go after something that affects multiple members of the cast while not changing anything. But the one I'm thinking of specifically isn't adjusting what is already in the game, but adding something new entirely. Out of the 3 options, this one has the highest likelihood of actually happening considering it's already taking place. Yunjin's attack speed bonus was a very welcome addition to units that specialized in normal attacks like Yoimiya, Razor, and Noelle. As of making this video, access to Sumeru will likely be opened up in the latter half of 2022, and with it, the Dendro element will finally have playable representatives and more elemental reactions. Depending on what those reactions will be or what role those new units serve, it can directly or indirectly change the power dynamic of the roster. Let's say there's a new amazing support character that gives a buff to one member of your party where the DPS increases the longer they stay out. Any damage dealer who excels in long drawn out fights or who can keep their outtime consistently high, such as Razor or Kuting, will get buffed by way of that new Dendro support. Right now, the meta favors quick swap burst rotation mostly because of there being so many more incentives to go that route than to stay on one unit for a long time. In the foreseeable future, that might change. We might have supports who can give buffs to their party that last an extremely long time, removing the need to swap so much. Weapons or artifacts can be introduced as a retroactive way to make certain characters stronger, as evident by the Ocean Hue clamp set, which led to Kokomi and Chi-Chi receiving a supplement to their
yeah, that's also a possibility with new artifacts.
damage. Nowadays I hear most Kokomi users favoring tenacity of the Millilith, but at the time, the new artifact domain gave more exposure to her, leading to many giving her a second chance, resulting in more theory crafting. Kuching was indirectly buffed with the advent of Mistsplitter Reforged, a weapon originally designed to be Ayaka's signature. The former instance had a more profound effect, but this is
I got Ayato's sword, like it is also pretty good with Kuching. I can't recommend it if you have it.
another way we can see weaker characters improve in efficiency. The second one, and arguably the most dangerous yet exciting, would be to raise the power ceiling of the game via designing new global systems.
Yes, that's the thing I want.
Gachas employ this a lot, especially when they feel like the game is stagnating in some way. No doubt if you played any other title, you've seen this plenty of times. I know I keep bringing up Final Fantasy Brave Exvius a lot, and that's because that's the gacha I played the most out of all of them. FFBE's max star rating for a long time was 6 stars, but around late 2018 there was an update that allowed base 5-star units to awaken into 7 stars, gaining new abilities, higher stats and whatnot. A similar instance happened again in mid-2020, featuring Neovisions, basically 8-star units. They would have this new form called Brave Shift, which was for all intents and purposes 2 different units packed into one. Alongside base units, 7-star units could become Neovisions.
Yeah, something like Awakening. Like I've heard many theories about that one, especially one where, yeah, you know, this island in the sky, like where many people theorize about that, but they said that this is going to be a place where your character could take 2 different paths, where he gets awakened or falls into the abyss and gets another power, bro. But that was such Illuminati stuff. It's insanity. Like, yeah, the Furious back in the day, people went crazy over that shit. But I was one of them. I was mentally ill, still am, yeah. And yeah, that was a weird time. But fun.
Too, leading to many old or outdated units getting massively buffed thanks to new abilities and functions. If they so choose, Hoyo can go down the same route, either in a small or grand way. They can increase the level cap to 100 and provide every character with a new passive or active talent, like a second elemental skill, opening up a myriad of ways to make old characters better. Amber could receive a new passive talent that causes Baron Bunny to pulsate fire while dancing, or Razor can get a new passive that boosts electro
They
damage.
need to increase Amber's fire, arrow, rain, her ultimate. It needs to be like 20 seconds, like permanent fire. That would be great, man. Eventually would be viable, but also considered a 5-star.
Damage proportional to his physical. Lisa can have a second elemental skill that stuns enemies in place for 2 seconds, allowing her to use a max channel violet arc.
Yeah.
If they want to do something big, they can introduce an entirely new system, say a combo mechanic. The more consecutive attacks you dish out with a single character, the more damage they do, kind of like in Final Fantasy. Not sure why I always go back to Final Fantasy, but hey, it's a good series.
Like, he always goes with, like, in League he went with like Smash Bros, and also went with fucking those references. Yeah, he does that combo insanely way, and how they deal with balancing stuff in Smash Bros, and then compares it to League of Legends. Like, every single time he does that shit.
Something else I thought of
it.
doing
Like,
was
it gives me a nice throwback to those games. It's nice.
an awakening mechanic. Every unit could have a specific quest you would have to do or certain conditions that need to be met, and if you complete it, they get enhancements to their existing abilities. If they wanted to, they can apply this to a select group of units, or they can apply this to only 4 stars so as not to make the gap between 4 and 5
I
stars.
loved this event, man. The golden Archipelago with Clear, bro. That event was so nice. Fucking cute,
Units
man.
wider. Now, the reason I say this is very dangerous is that making game-changing updates like this has the potential to severely power creep the game. So while I'm suggesting this as a way to bridge the gap between weak and strong characters, the exact opposite can happen too, where the strong ones get even stronger. If executed competently though, big gameplay updates like this can refresh and enhance the game's experience, adding more depth to strategy and team building, a core part of Genshin Impact. On the subject of strategy, the final way they can fix weaker characters would be to construct a bridge from the other side of the canyon, that is, to design content that forces you to use those suboptimal units by imposing conditions or restrictions that mandate certain gimmicks.
Get more variety, just can't be like, just use fucking Toe Xiao to get the most DPS in that specific amount of time. This way I don't like Abyss. Like, the time restriction forces you to do the insane amount of damage to get all the stars. And what I love is just that you could go for like a tank build where you don't do barely any damage, but you survive through the whole thing. Some people find that fun, I guess, but it gives more variety, man. So it's just something different. Exactly.
Gimmicks or niche play that can only be done by them. Case in point, dedicated healers. Objectively speaking, Chi-Chi, Sayu, and Barbara see low usage on account of their purpose not being a necessity for anything that's available right now.
Bro, Sayo is a good taxi, by the way.
In other games, endgame bosses tend to dish out staggering amounts of damage, requiring you to field at least one tank or healer type character.
Don't fall into the behold and start this game. Like, bad shit consumes you on another level. Fucking Fate, man. Like, I love the universe of Fate, man, but the gacha game it is horrendous. And it consumes you for holy shit. Like, now our gacha game, not even Genshin Impact, consume me that much like Fate Grand Order. I don't really recommend it, man. Stay with Genshin, I guess.
So as to not get wiped out. Technically speaking, enemies do a lot of damage in Genshin, but since elemental bursts inherently grant full invulnerability during the animation, quick swap burst comps spend a good third of the entire game being straight up immune to any damage, invalidating the need for a healer since you take no damage to begin with. That only happens because you can switch between units every second or so. So something that got me thinking was in the recent event that coincided with Yelan. One of the stratagem buffs in the domain went along the lines of increasing your swap cooldown to 6 seconds or so in exchange for great.
Oh, in this event, I didn't even read the shit. I just pressed the things and pressed confirmed. And it still works because those events are fucking easy. There's no challenge in Genshin at all. I can do these events, and this is why I stopped making Genshin content. Like, theorizing, that's a different thing. But I actually wanted to do, like, make some Genshin guides and shit like that on how to proceed with things. But when I really looked into it, I thought to myself, are people so stupid that they need a guide for this specific event? And I thought to myself, nah, man, that's basically an insult making a fucking guide for you. Or like those puzzle guides. I don't want to do them because why? Do it yourself. It's if you really find that game so boring that you can't even do the puzzle by yourself, then don't play the game, man. I guess it's nothing for you.
Greater staying power for the active user. Without the luxury to switch between party members so liberally, it would force players to reconsider the viability of quick swap teams. Hoyo could release a boss that would increase the cooldown of swaps to 3 to 4 seconds, making each character more vulnerable to taking damage. Therefore, anyone who can provide lasting support or persistent damage would be more favorable over those who switch in, use E and Q, then switch out right away. Unique situations are the best way to spark interest in character variety. Once again, a lot of quote-unquote bad characters aren't actually bad in a vacuum, they're just too gimmicky or inefficient. However, if you were to create a boss that had a phase where you can only damage them via melee cryo-infused normal, charged, or plunging attacks, there are only 2 characters in Genshin who can do that consistently.
Yeah, that's also, that's character locked content, I guess, yeah.
Ayaka and Chongyun. For those who don't have Ayaka, Chongyun is their only option to take this boss down efficiently since he gives every melee character cryo-infused damage. Say there's a boss you have to chase down. If you don't have a fast character like Yelan, the next option would be Sayu, who can go from one location to another very quickly with her roly-poly skill. His name is escaping me at the moment. Long distance candles that have to be lit to expose the boss's weak point? Amber and Yoimiya are the only 2 who can do that. A boss that takes increased damage from catalyst users, Ningguang, Yanfei, and Lisa. A boss that has 2 forms, one that takes bonus pyro damage and the other that takes bonus physical damage, Xinyan. In fact, that's a lot of missed potential about this game. Every gacha tends to categorize its units based on weapon type, class, element, function, etc. And then weekly bosses, events, or PvP seasons are set in rotation to encourage players to diversify their roster. Blue Archive is one example of a relatively new gacha that does this quite well in my opinion. Each unit performs differently based on what terrain the battle takes place in, urban, indoor, or outdoor areas. They also have a certain damage type, explosive,
Kinda looks cute with those chibi figures fighting each other, man.
piercing, or mystic, and a certain defense type as well, light armor, heavy armor, or special armor. This allows for scenarios where one character is vastly more efficient than the other and vice versa, so there's no instance when one character is infinitely superior over everyone else. Genshin has an even more diverse roster of characters, 6 playable elements, soon to be 7, 5 weapon types, perhaps more in the future, and different playstyles ranging.
We need more weapons, like I wanna have a dagger, I wanna have double swords and some shit like that, a fucking battle axe, crossbow, heavy bow, like include some new shit, man. I would love that halberd. It would be insane.
From crowd control to burst to DPS, etc. It's just that right now there's no content that facilitates that diversity. Every boss is
sword with shield, bro. I need that shit.
Domain takes place in an open room and no semblance of strategy other than maybe having a type advantage such as bringing pyro against cryo enemies. There's no difference between Hu Tao's damage, Ayaka's damage, Shogun's damage, Xiao's damage, etc. since there's no content that distinguishes one from another. Ideally, Hoyo should try to do a mixture of all three. There are plenty of ways to balance characters to allow for a more complete and diverse roster. They're simply not using any of them. Do they have to? Not necessarily, but speaking from experience, gachas that last a long time and are successful do so by fostering character longevity.
Yeah, it is all about the waifus, man. Just include my waifus and it works. But yeah, it works, I guess, for most of the fucking peeps. But I really think of maybe quitting Genshin if it keeps going like this. I wait till all religions, when they're all finished. I want to know what MiHoYo does after that. Maybe some crossover realm with Honkai, but I think they should really focus endgame someday, I guess. Please.
Really unsatisfying for a player to invest so much time and resources into a unit only for them to fall off within a few weeks to the next one that comes out. Fortunately, some day one units like Bennett and
Max Kujo Sora, and I don't know how to use her properly. Like, I think she's pretty useless, in my opinion.
Shincho are still doing well,
I'm sorry,
but
man.
it would be awesome if more day one units had a chance to shine. Noelle, Chongyun, Lisa, Ningguang, Amber, Kaya, Chi-Chi, even now they still have a lot of tricks up their sleeve that many don't bother looking into since there's no need to, and that applies to more than just day oneers. Sayu, Toma, Xinyan, even Aloy of all people. Only time will tell. Right now, if there's anything to look forward to on the horizon, it would most likely be the advent of Dendro as a playable element and its accompanying units and reactions. I still think the game would be better off if they added more talents though, if everyone had 2 elemental skills as opposed to 1. But again, that's very risky to implement and has to be done with proper thought and care. On that note, let me know in the comments which of the 3 options I lined up would you choose. Might be fun to see what the majority is, so what I'm gonna do is leave a straw poll in the description for you to vote on. For now, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe.
Damn.
Consider following me on Twitter.
Yeah, go support him. Go leave. Give him a like and sub. Come on, sub that hard. And if you watched till this point, I would really appreciate if you would also give me a like and sub, man. Like, I love doing reactions. I also love doing gameplay videos, but that will come tomorrow, I think. Because I still can't fix my thing with OBS. I still have problems while recording a game. This shit fucking lags. I don't know if it's my fucking graphics card. If it really is my graphics card, then I'm in trouble, man. Because I really wanted to gameplay content so bad. I tried it like 2 times already and wasted like 8 hours on just gameplay, which is like nothing right now. Like it is deleted. I don't have it anymore because it was like 15 FPS. And yeah, let's go to the straw poll. And let's see. Which of these do you think is the best way to buff weaker characters? Reduce no contract, flip all the characters, raise the power ceiling of the game. Yeah, but it's also a good thing. Add content in-game and force players to a unique situation. Isn't 1 and 3, it's a bit similar, I guess. Ocean Claim artifact set. That would be more annoying. I guess the first one. My opinion. Want to see the result. Yep. Yeah, but it's pretty like yeah, it's good this way. Interesting. And yeah, you can go through the comments, go support him, and I guess I'll see you next time. If you want to see more of his shit, yeah, you know what to do. I guess. See ya. Wafer out.